Alright, good morning students. Yesterday we were discussing our environment, chapter number 15, and we discussed about what are food chains, food webs, and we also discussed about how pesticides and harmful chemicals enter the ecosystem. They enter these harmful pesticides, they enter the food chain, and from the lower regions, that means the lower links in the food chain, they steadily get magnified. That is called biological magnification. This increase in the amount of harmful chemicals, especially pesticides and artificial fertilizers and other toxic chemicals, they keep on accumulating from the lowermost link of the food chain right to the top, and we humans occupy the top link in most food chains, and therefore in our bodies maximum concentration of toxic chemicals is found, and this we realized is called biological magnification. That question about biological magnification is extremely important. All students must learn it by heart. What is biological magnification? Alright, you must have also seen newspaper reports, on television, and debates must be held about how these pesticides harm our bodies, how they enter the food chain, and so on. Now let's further discuss about how do all human activities, how do our activities affect the environment. Alright, see this one now. How do our activities affect the environment? We are an integral part of the environment. Okay, we humans, although we are superior, we are still part of the environment. Okay, we depend upon air, water, sunlight, all the other plants and animals. We are all interdependent. Although we are superior and in a way we rule the earth, yet we are dependent on all other forms of life. Changes in the environment affect us also, and our activities change the environment around us. We have already seen in class 9 how our activities pollute the environment. In this chapter we shall be looking at two important environmental problems in detail. This is the depletion of the ozone layer and the waste disposal. Now, depletion of the ozone layer. Before that I want to just discuss a little bit about global warming, because it is the current topic. Climate change and global warming is a current topic. It is discussed all over the world. School-going children in different parts of the world, all school-going children know about climate change and global warming. The effects of global warming and the effects of climate change are seen today worldwide. You see catastrophic climate change, okay, disasters such as floods, landslides, torrential rains, okay, all these things. Earthquakes may not be a part of that, but actually landslides are due to environmental degradation, especially in hilly regions. Lots of landslides occur because the sides of the hills have been completely denuded of trees. The soil becomes loose and landslides occur. All this is happening because of human activities. Excessive use of natural resources has caused adverse impact on the environment, and one of them is the depletion of the ozone layer. Now, what is this ozone? Ozone is also a kind of gas. Okay, oxygen is made up of two atoms of oxygen. Oxygen molecule is diatomic. It is made up of two atoms of oxygen, whereas ozone molecule is triatomic. Three atoms of oxygen combine to form one molecule of ozone, O3. Oxygen is O2, ozone is O3. Okay, but oxygen has different properties from ozone. Ozone is completely poisonous. Oxygen, of course, we require it. Okay, otherwise without oxygen plants and animals would not survive. But on the other hand, ozone is a poisonous gas. Okay, it is found in the upper layers of the atmosphere, and this gas has a specific function. It protects the earth from the harmful ultraviolet light of the sun, UV radiation, ultraviolet radiation which is coming from the sun. Okay, all those radiations, that radiation is the effect of causing all kinds of cancers and biological change, and therefore our bodies has to be protected from that. All living forms require that protection, and ozone gas provides that protection. It is found in the upper layers of the atmosphere. But the problem is, you see, in recent years, in the last 50-60 years, gradually because of the overuse of certain types of products, they are called CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. Excessive use of CFCs has caused depletion of the ozone layer. A hole has developed in certain parts. For example, a hole has developed over parts of Antarctica. and also parts of Australia. Okay, thank God it has not happened over Asia, because Asia consists of the largest population in the world, and incidences of skin cancer has increased in parts of Australia and New Zealand because of that hole in the ozone layer. Okay, so ozone is an extremely important gas. Although it is poisonous, it is found in the upper layers of the Earth's atmosphere, and it has the function of protecting all living things on the planet by preventing harmful UV light from entering the Earth's atmosphere. And of course, the second part is waste disposal. Disposal of waste product, will come to that in a while. Okay, ozone layer and how it is getting depleted. Depleted means reduced. Ozone, O3, is a molecule formed by 3 atoms of oxygen. Remember, your textbook should be open to this chapter when you are doing this video. Whatever questions I have written here, for example, see the question out here on the side. There is a question, okay, on this side, which says that, just a second here, okay, this question out here, what is ozone? Okay, what is ozone? And there is a question out here also, what is the role or the function of ozone? Or the question can also be asked in a different way. How does ozone protect us? Ozone protects us by preventing harmful UV light from the sun entering into the Earth's atmosphere. What is the role or function of ozone? It is the same answer. Okay, what is ozone? Ozone is a gas which is triatomic. It is formed by 3 atoms of oxygen. Okay, so however, at the higher levels of the atmosphere, ozone performs an essential function. Although normally referred, while O2, which we normally refer to as oxygen, essential for aerobic forms of life, ozone is a deadly poison. However, at the higher levels of atmosphere, ozone performs an essential function. It shields, protects the surface of the earth from ultraviolet UV radiation from the sun. This radiation has the potential to cause a lot of damage. It is highly damaging to living organisms. For example, it is known to cause skin cancers in human beings. When you are exposed to high levels of UV light, it can cause skin cancers. Okay, in fact, this is exactly what happened in Australia. In certain parts of Australia, the incidence of skin cancer increased. The reason behind that, because it was found that a small hole had developed in the ozone layer just above where Australia is there. Ozone at the higher levels of the atmosphere is a product of UV radiation acting on oxygen molecules. The higher energy ultraviolet radiation splits apart some molecular oxygen into free oxygen atoms. These atoms then combine with the molecular oxygen to form ozone, as shown. Now you can see this equation is shown here. Okay, and a question I have written on the side which says, how is ozone formed? Alright, this small paragraph is the answer to that question, and you must write that equation. Look at that equation. O2, that is oxygen molecule, when it is acted upon by ultraviolet light, it splits into 2 oxygen atoms, and then the oxygen atom combines with a molecule of oxygen to give O3, ozone. It's a very simple, okay, it's a very simple equation, but all of you must learn it by heart. How is ozone formed? Write the equation for the formation of ozone. And then there is another question here, what are CFCs? How are they harmful to the environment? So you should be writing this question on the side, how is ozone formed? Write the equation for the formation of ozone gas. And the other question should be, what are CFCs? How are they harmful to the environment? Now just before I go on, you can see here oxygen splits into oxygen atoms. One oxygen atom reacts with oxygen molecule to form a molecule of ozone gas. This takes place in the upper parts of the atmosphere, where UV light bombards the atmosphere, and as a result oxygen molecule is split into oxygen atoms. Alright, before I go further, I just want to remind all students that if you are finding it difficult to watch the whole video because of internet speed connections and speed connectivity, sometimes the speed is less, okay, you might not be able to watch the entire video because of that, then my suggestion is you download the video. Download it to your mobile phone or your tablet, okay, and then you can watch it any number of times, anytime. Then you won't have to depend upon internet speed, and you will not be using the data also. In fact, you should download it so it will be present on your mobile phone whenever you want to use it. Any number of times when you are relaxing and you want to watch the video, you can watch it again. Okay, you don't have to use up your data. Okay, you will not be using excess data also, and at the same time you will not have any problem with internet speed or connectivity. Alright, so to carry on, you see the amount of ozone in the atmosphere began to drop sharply in the 1980s. from 1980 onwards. What was the reason? This decrease has been linked to synthetic chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, which are used as refrigerant gases and in fire extinguishers. You see, in refrigerant gases means not just in a refrigerator. Wherever cooling is required, for example in an AC, air conditioner also, these gases, CFCs, are used. And soon the scientists realized that it is CFCs. You see, when they go into the atmosphere, when CFC gases are released into the atmosphere, they climb up into the higher atmosphere, they combine with oxygen and destroy, rather they combine with ozone and destroy the ozone molecules. In 1987, the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, succeeded in making an agreement to freeze CFC production at 1986 levels. No more allowed except those till 1986. It is now compulsory, mandatory for all the manufacturing companies to make CFC free refrigerators throughout the world. That means from 1986 onwards there is a ban on the use of CFCs. There are still some companies and some countries which allow it, but by the United Nations General Agreement, that 1986 onwards there is a complete ban on such CFCs. Alright. Find out from the library, internet or newspaper reports which chemicals are responsible for the depletion of the ozone layer. You will see the same answer. Find out if the regulations put in place to control the emission of such chemicals has succeeded in reducing the damage to the ozone layer. Has the size of the hole in the ozone layer changed in recent years? The answer is yes. Thankfully, the answer is yes. In some parts, it has been observed that ozone layer hole has actually diminished. It has decreased in the size, which is a good thing. But we have to make sure that it continues to decrease. Okay. Then managing the garbage we produce. Now the second problem is garbage. The first was depletion of the ozone layer. That was the first problem that was created by human interaction with the environment. Now the second problem is garbage that we produce. Now you see our cities and towns and villages are becoming excessively populated. You can see urbanization, rapid growth of cities, towns and villages. That has led to human waste. Large amounts of human waste. So much so that we need a system, a proper system to handle the garbage. Okay. Remember, sewage is just one form of garbage. Sewage means bathroom excreta. Okay, urine and waste, solid waste. That is just one. But even your kitchen waste, what you produce in the kitchen, vegetable peels and fruit leftovers and food leftovers and things like that, that is also garbage. And we have to learn how to dispose of that. But disposing of organic matter is far easier because organic matter decomposes. Inorganic matter such as plastic, it is very difficult to get rid of plastic. In our daily activities, we generate a lot of material that is thrown away. What are some of these waste materials that we know? What happens after we throw them away? That also we know because nobody seems to do anything about it. And garbage accumulates on the streets, causing such diseases. Let us perform an activity to find answers to these questions. Collect waste material from your home, from your kitchen or from anywhere. This could include all the waste generated during a day like kitchen waste, spoiled food, vegetable peels, used tea leaves or used tea powder, milk packets, empty cartons, okay, of any product, waste paper, empty medicine bottles, strips, bubble packs, old and torn clothes, blankets and so on, and broken footwear. This is all types of waste which accumulates in our households and we throw them away. Bury this material in a small pit. Okay, a pit is a small hole in the ground. In the school garden, or if there is no space available, you can collect the material in an old bucket or a flower pot and cover it with at least 15 centimeters of soil. Okay, about half a foot of soil. Keep this material moist. Put a little bit of water on it if necessary and observe at least for 15 days and see what happens. What are the materials that remain unchanged over long periods of time? What are the materials which change their form and structure over a period of time? Of these materials that are changed, which ones change the fastest and so on? Well, it's quite obvious that organic matter like fruit peels, vegetable peels, okay, kitchen waste that we use, food materials, thrown away vegetables and spoiled food, all that is organic matter. Organic matter decays very rapidly. It gets converted into inorganic substances, into simple substances very, very quickly. It degenerates, and that's a good thing that is called biodegradable substances. Biodegradable substances are substances which break down easily. They are organic substances and they are useful. In fact, if you throw this away, animal excreta, human excreta, urine, vegetable peels, fruit leftovers and things like that, those are all organic matter which decays very quickly, which degenerates or is biodegradable. If you throw it anywhere, it will actually enrich the soil. Understood? It will make the soil even better for cultivation. But substances like plastic bottles and things like that, you see polythene bags, plastic bottles, metal containers, the metal container will also decay, it will rust, but it will take a long time. But plastic is a real problem. It does not degrade. It takes thousands of years to change, and that's why plastic is a real danger. We have seen in chapter on life processes that the food we eat is digested by various enzymes in our body. Have you ever wondered why the same enzyme does not break down everything we eat? Enzymes are specific in their action. Specific enzymes are needed for the breakdown of particular substances. That is why we will not get any energy if we try to eat cold. Obviously, you see, enzymes dissolve certain substances. There are acids, pepsin, trypsin, those chemicals, biochemicals, enzymes, lipase, amylase. These are enzymes which are found in the gastric juices. Okay, our saliva also contains certain enzymes, but these enzymes are specifically targeted to break down certain substances. That is part of our food. Coal, if you eat a piece of coal, you know what will happen. Okay, you will probably come down with fever or indigestion or something like that. You may not die, but you will have serious complications because it's not supposed to be digested by the body. So you see, there are certain chemicals which digest certain substances. Everything cannot be digested. You have seen, you must have read reports in newspapers and on television, many instances where cows have died because they ate plastic bags, polythene bags, and they could not digest it. So it blocked up the whole digestive system and they would die. That is why we will not get energy from eating coal. Because of this, many human-made materials like plastics will not be broken down by the action of bacteria or other saprophytic bacteria. As I told you, saprophytic bacteria are bacteria that convert, okay, that feed on dead organic matter. Alright? These materials will be acted upon by physical processes like heat and pressure, but under the ambient, present environmental conditions found in our environment, they persist for a long time. Alright, couple of questions here. You can see, okay, what are biodegradable substances? Substances which degrade from organic to inorganic substances like vegetable peels, fruits, leftovers of food, spoiled food, and so on. Okay, animal excreta, human excreta. And what are non-biodegradable substances? Non-biodegradable substances are those which do not degrade, which do not decompose, like for example polythene and plastic. Substances that are broken down by biological processes are said to be biodegradable. How many of the substances you buried in the soil were biodegradable? Substances that are not broken down in this manner are said to be non-biodegradable. These substances may be inert, inactive, and simply persist in the environment for a very long time or may harm the various members of the ecosystem. A plastic bag which is buried in the soil is going to cause problems for microscopic insects and microbes. It is not useful to anyone. Today, plastic polythene bags are found even in the deepest part of the oceans, hindering marine life, causing problems for ocean life. That's why plastic is a serious problem. Alright, activity 15.6, use the library or internet to find out more about biodegradable and non-biodegradable substances. How long various non-biodegradable substances are expected to last in your environment. Plastic can last for thousands of years, for example. These days, new types of plastic which are said to be biodegradable are available. Biodegradable, any substance is always useful. Paper, for example, it is one of the best way to use paper is to use it for various purposes. Paper can be recycled and it is biodegradable. Find out more about such materials and whether they do not harm the environment. Alright, all the questions are in the PDF, and again make sure that you read the textbook with me carefully while you are doing this. Not only that, highlight everything. Most of the answers are always highlighted and you can find them easily. Visit any town or city and we are sure to find heaps of garbage all over the place. We know that our cities, towns and villages are dirty. All you have to do is walk down the road and you will see garbage everywhere. Visit any place of tourist interest and we are sure to find the place littered with empty food wrappers. In the earlier classes, we have talked about this problem of dealing with garbage that we humans generate. Let us now look at the problem in a bit more deeply. Alright, there is an activity here also, okay, about panchayats and municipal corporations. Find out what happens to the waste generated at home. Is there a system in place to collect this waste? Find out how the local body, that your gram panchayat or municipal corporation, resident welfare associations, deal with waste. Are there mechanisms in place to treat biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste separately? Calculate how much waste is generated at home in a day. How much of this waste is biodegradable? How much waste is generated in the classroom every day? How much of this waste is biodegradable? And suggest ways of dealing with this waste. Well, there are municipalities and gram panchayats everywhere. Municipal corporations in large cities. The problem with Indian population is this, that we are living in congested cities, in congested environments. Yes, we do have a system in place where municipalities collect the garbage, but unfortunately, people's habit play a vital role. People's habit, you see, they throw garbage anywhere. There is no garbage. You see, in some of the advanced countries, European countries like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, these are Norwegian countries, Finland, they have a superb system of disposing waste. In fact, they use the waste. Biodegradable waste is utilized by them for various other purposes. They even use it to generate electricity. In our case, we have got no such thing. Some of the cities there, they have got incinerators. Incinerator is a large place where the waste is burnt, completely burnt, okay, and the ash can be used as a fertilizer. But we don't seem to have such places, or we don't seem to have such a system in place. In many of our towns and villages, there is no gutter system also. The gutters are open, breeding ground for mosquitoes and microbes and bacteria that cause diseases. So we do have a serious problem of waste disposal. Alright, activity 15.8. Find out how the sewage in your locality is treated. Are there mechanisms into place ensure that local water bodies are not polluted by untreated sewage? Sewage, gutter water is called sewage. Okay, the water and materials from your bathroom, toilet is called sewage. Now, unfortunately, most of our sewage system is very bad. Okay, there is hardly, in some cities and towns and villages, it is open, the gutters, they are not even covered. There is no underground gutter system. And in some places, they have constructed underground gutter system, but they don't work at all. They get choked up. Okay, then that water mixes with the underground water, and it pollutes the underground water, which is actually a drinking water. And this is a major problem. Find out how the local industries in your locality treat waste materials. How are these mechanisms in place to ensure that the soil and water are not polluted by such waste materials? Improvement in our lifestyles have resulted in greater amounts of waste material generation. See, our lifestyles over the last 50 years has changed. Okay, we are living better lives in terms of the quality of life. Okay, we may be living longer, we may be because of medical facilities, because of education and awareness, and all this has resulted in, for example, one major lifestyle change is fast food. Fast food restaurants and fast food lariwalas, and people like to food takeaways, to go somewhere, pick up some food parcel and come home and then sit on the sofa in front of the TV and eat while you are watching TV. This is a bad lifestyle change. People in many Western countries, they don't cook food. They just go to a restaurant, buy some food and bring it home. Okay, these are all lifestyle changes. But that has also resulted in waste material generation. Changes in attitude also have a role to play, with more and more things we use becoming disposable. Changes in packaging have resulted in much of our waste becoming non-biodegradable. We pack them up, okay, in such a way that they are non-biodegradable. Polythene bags, that is the biggest culprit here. What do you think will be the impact of these on our environment? We have to be very careful. Okay, see that now there is a question here which I have written there. Just have a look here. Okay, question must be written: lifestyle and waste generation. What lifestyle changes have taken place? You to this paragraph. Okay, about lifestyle changes and how that it has led to waste generation. All right, then we come to disposable cups in trains. Now you see these disposable cups in trains. There was a time when if you travel by train, you get a cup of tea. But the cup of tea was given to you in small clay cups made of mitti, clay. Okay, It was made of simple clay, red colored clay, and it was disposable. Suppose it breaks, no problem, it is just soil, right? And it does not pollute the environment also, and it is biodegradable, completely 100% biodegradable. But then it was replaced by plastic cups, and plastic, as I told you, is a dangerous pollutant. It just does not degrade. If you ask your parents, they will probably remember a time when tea in trains was served in plastic glasses which had to be returned to the vendor. You see, there was a time when this plastic, you drink your cup of tea and give it back. So the vendor would clean it up and recycle it and reuse it. So there was less waste. The introduction of disposable cups was hailed, it was considered a good thing, as a step forward for reasons of hygiene. Why reasons of hygiene? You see, if somebody uses it and he has a disease, bacteria or viral infection, then if that is used again, someone else may get the disease. So from the medical point of view, disposable cups are good. And in fact, these days, pandemic, because of the corona pandemic, you see more and more disposable things are being used. No one at that time perhaps thought about the impact caused by the disposable of millions of these cups on a daily basis. Some time back, kulhards, that is disposable cups made of clay, mitti, were suggested as an alternative. But a little thought showed that making these kulhards on a large scale would result in the loss of top fertile soil. You see, this clay comes from what? Topsoil. So if millions of these are made, then the topsoil will disappear. Because our human demand is more. It all comes down to one simple fact: human population. Now disposable paper cups are being used. What do you think are the advantages of disposable paper cups over disposable plastic cups? Paper cups are better because that paper cup can be recycled. Okay, paper will be broken down in paper factories, in paper mills, and new paper will be made from that. New cups can be made. It is hygienic and it is also bio-friendly. That means biodegradable and environmental friendly. So those paper cups are far better than plastic cups. Alright, then search the internet or library to find out what hazardous means dangerous materials have to be dealt with while disposing electronic items. How would these materials affect the environment? Find out how plastics are recycled. Does the recycling process have any impact on the environment? Alright, hazardous materials, dangerous materials. For example, a lithium-ion battery which is used in mobile phones. The battery, rechargeable battery, it's called a lithium-ion battery. Now, whenever a battery gets completely used up, it no longer can be charged, then people tend to replace the battery by throwing away the old battery. But that old battery is extremely dangerous. It should be disposed of very carefully. You cannot just throw it anywhere. In the same way, there are many electronic items which are quite dangerous to the soil and therefore to microscopic organisms inside the soil. So that's why it's important that certain electronic waste should be buried in soil very carefully. Their disposal is very important. In fact, you will see on a lithium-ion battery, it will be written, please do not throw it away anywhere, okay? Because it's dangerous. These batteries are very dangerous. They contain lithium and many other chemicals which can actually harm the soil, okay? Recycling of plastics is difficult. But what they do is, for example, a plastic bottle can be recycled in the sense it can be first of all fumigated. Fumigated matlab it can be cleaned with hot water, boiling. Take a plastic bottle, put it in hot boiling water, it will become completely disinfected and then it can be used again. So recycling and reuse are better ways of helping to save our natural resources, at the same time preventing pollution. Alright, then there are some questions here, and what have you learned? All these questions are there, which I have again discussed. Okay, I have discussed these questions in the PDF that I have given to you. Now all of you should be looking at these questions very carefully, and not only that, just make sure that you go to the PDF, learn the question answers and prepare for your upcoming test. Okay, just make sure that you do it. And finally, of course, I also wanted to tell you that, you see, I know that we are having problems because of this pandemic, worldwide pandemic, viral pandemic, and we are not able to have regular classes. As soon as it is possible, I will try to make sure that we can have regular classes. Meanwhile, I want all of you to give me your feedback, whether you are able to learn something, whether these videos are useful to you or not. Tell me on WhatsApp, okay? Also, let me know if you are interested in having a test on Saturday. Every Saturday, although we may not meet, but Saturday we can have a test. Okay, so on Saturday once a week we can get together and we can have a test. I want to know how you feel about this. I want your feedback. So after you have watched the entire video, let me know on WhatsApp what you think about this. Alright, stay safe and have a nice day.